Hello, welcome back. We've spent the last 2 episodes looking at leveraging your value proposition to attract more clients. And my next guest today is a really good example of that. She's founder and CEO of a non-profit organisation, the Wells International Foundation, leveraging her unique gifts and experiences to make a difference in the world. And we're going to be talking empowerment principles and practices for entrepreneurship. Can't wait to share this with you.
Welcome to the Leverage Business Podcast, where we believe business success is about working smarter, not harder, leveraging your time and expertise in ways that fit the digital age you and your clients live in today. I'm your host, Jay Allison, author of Leverage Consulting in the Digital Age and founder of the iSuccess Business Academy. And every week I'll be sharing insights into how you can apply the power of leverage to grow your consulting, coaching, or other expert services business and create true freedom and independent success with mindset, marketing, and money model breakthroughs. Because when you get leveraged, the sky's the limit. Let's go for it. Hello, everyone, and welcome. How are you all doing? I'm joined today by the wonderful Monique Y. Wells, founder and CEO of the Wells International Foundation. Dr. Monique is a visionary, a change maker, and a steward of legacy, and her journey is an incredible testimony to entrepreneurship, tenacity, and benevolence. And from her career in veterinary pathology to running a travel business with her husband, from authoring multiple books to writing for high-end publications, from speaker and storyteller to mentor and mastermind facilitator, Monique is a consummate professional embracing and harnessing the power of education to change lives. She's combined her corporate experience, research experience, and passion for education and enlightenment under the umbrella of her US nonprofit organization, the Wells International Foundation. A native of Texas and 29-year resident of Paris, France, Monique and I have shared our lifestyle experiences and our business adventures over the last half a year or so. And I was so taken with her whole journey. I really wanted to get Monique on the show here to talk about the whole mission behind her foundation, and in particular, the focus on empowerment, women's empowerment in particular. But the principles apply across all genders, races, and religions. And I'll let her explain her thoughts on all of that and draw on more of her story and insights. Right now, after that initial, very brief little introduction to all that you do, let me say hello and welcome, Monique. Welcome to the Leverage Business Podcast. So great to have you here.
I am so excited, Jay. Thank you for inviting me. I love podcasts, and we've had just such a wonderful time getting to know each other, as you mentioned, over the past several months. And I'm just excited to be here and to be able to speak to your audience.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to hang out with us and have a chat. I'd like to start our conversation where we might usually finish when talking about leverage, and that's the pursuit of life balance. Because I'll be honest, when I first met you and you were talking about the Wells International Foundation and everything you do and all the things that you've been involved in and continue to be involved in, and I've only scratched the surface in that introduction, as I said, from a work-life balance point of view, I was thinking to myself, and I probably even said it out loud to you, when does this woman sleep?
Yes, that's a common comment from people who learn about me and what I do. And I have to say that I do sleep, and I actually sleep quite well because I'm so tired. But it's a good tired, and I really I'm not waking up in the middle of the night with worries and things like that. I go full out every day and I sleep well. When I go to bed, I sleep well.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to digging into a little bit of some of those philosophies that drive you and energy and things like that as well. And in the interview series that you did for the book promotion, talking about success with Jack Canfield, and ask you more about what you share in the book later. I know that he also had the same jaw-dropping reaction after hearing about your story and the foundation's work. And I'll put a link in the show notes to that video because I think it's a really nice way to kind of get to know, the spread of things that you do. It's about 20 minutes or so. So I'll put that link in the show notes. And here's the question for you here, Monique. And I know it's a topic you speak on. How do you crack the code for life balance? Is it a kind of I'll sleep when I'm dead thing? Or is, as I suspect, something more philosophical?
So definitely not sleep when I'm dead, because then you'll be dead sooner than later. Um, so there's a lot that I can say about that. When I started out years ago doing what I called at that time management, which is a fallacy. Let me just make that clear. One of the things that I developed as a tagline was that life balance, well, productivity, okay, equals knowing what matters and getting it done, okay? And I think at that time, I think the book Doing What Matters was out, and it was a big deal. And I was thinking, okay, really the key to life balance is, and I don't even say work-life balance anymore. I say life balance because work is a part of your life. And I think you should just look at your life as an entire entity, and work is a part of it. But the thing about doing what matters is that the emphasis is on the doing. And so people tend to feel that if they are doing things, then that's good. And, they should get pats on the back for just being in action, when the things that they're doing, they never really stop to think a lot about what they're doing. And so for me, bringing in knowing what matters is key. Before you ever do anything, you should understand why what you're getting ready to do matters, or if it matters, or how much it matters compared to something else that you could be doing. And so my focus was to look at the knowing what matters part. And when you ask what matters, then the next logical question is, who does it matter to? And if it doesn't matter to you, why are you doing it? A lot of people are doing things because other people think that they should, or have mandated that they do it, or whatever. When we're talking about entrepreneurship, as the entrepreneur, you are the driver, and you have to take responsibility for what you do every minute of every day. And so it is really important as an entrepreneur to understand what matters to you and why it matters. And does it really matter to you, or is it something that you've been told should matter to you, and so you've just sort of taken that on? And I think I'll venture to say that the majority of people, especially people who are starting out in business, are not really focused on this. It's a new venture, and oh God, I've got to do all of these things, and I don't really understand this, that, or the other, but I've been told that, got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. And there's no sort of, they've already started to lose themselves in their business because they're not tuned into what really matters to them.
I like that. I mean, you come at the whole start with why, Simon Sinek's classic from a whole different angle. And I think because obviously a lot of what I do is around business planning. I like the fact that, because we start with why, sounds like, yes, we had to the heart of it, but you still got to plan a business. You still got to plan for growth. And so it gives a whole nother angle really to doing work that matters. So no, I like that. Thank you. That's amazing. And you're right. We don't often take the time to step back and kind of really think about these things. Something I ask usually later in my discussions with guests is around how things have changed for COVID. But I think it's relevant to ask that now, because what I'm sensing, and a lot of people have commented on as well, is that people have started to reevaluate what matters for themselves, for their life, for their business, for the people they serve. How do you feel that that's changed for you and for the people around you that you work with?
Well, for me personally, COVID was an opportunity to just really step back and look at whether things I have been doing and what has mattered to me in the past has changed. I think that for a lot of people, COVID was really like ripping off the blinders and saying, oh my God, I've been pursuing things that really don't matter to me for years. I am happy to say that I took that hard look at myself and was pleased to find that I really didn't need to change track with regard to what matters. I've been doing what matters to me for several years now. And I actually had a very interesting point in time a few years ago when my work as veterinary pathologist and toxicologist, which was my primary for years and years and years, my primary profession, my primary professional activity, that was decimated. That business was decimated with the recession of 2008, 2009. And I really was always wanting to, just try to get back to that, get back to that. Well, I had an opportunity to get back to that. And I found out that it did not light me up anymore.
Sure.
It really didn't.
Yeah.
And it was a very, very important lesson to learn because I spent truly all of my life trying to achieve what I achieved with that business. And things were taken away from me through no fault of my own. Things were out of my control. The recession was the recession. My client base went away, period. It had nothing to do with me. I had a very successful business prior to that. But just this sort of, remaking myself and then finally having an opportunity to say, oh, now I can go back. It was quite shocking to learn that I didn't care about that anymore.
So it's kind of a forced stepping back, isn't it, in a way, when something like that happens, but seeing it as an opportunity. I've written about that in my book briefly as well, in terms of turning obstacles into opportunities, because what seems like a setback is actually a really good space to think back. And I also remember in one of our conversations, and I know you talk about this in the chapter of the book I mentioned, you sort of have to go back over it time and time again and build something up again. And maintaining that kind of drive, that commitment comes back to you saying, you kind of knew in your heart what it was that mattered to you. And I also recall distinctly you said, I try to avoid any kind of push energy. And in fact, I've borrowed that philosophy quite a lot myself and with a number of clients now, because it's very powerful. Tell us what you mean by avoiding push energy. What does that look like in practice? And how do you see the benefits then in how you work?
Well, I like to say that if something is going to happen, it's going to happen. It doesn't mean that you just sit back and do nothing, There is a way to go about getting things to happen that you want to have happen. And for me, it no longer involves pushing. It no longer involves feeling that you need to be in control. It no longer involves beating yourself up if something happens that's just not within your little plan. And I say little plan, the plans could be huge, but in the greater scheme of things, anybody's plan is little, okay? Truly. And so what I like to do and say, and what I teach and what I share in masterminding is that from a space of knowing what matters, you decide you want to do X. So then you set an intention, I'm going to do X. You find out what is required, in quotes, to do X, knowing that, this is a very important thing to know, that there is never one single way to accomplish anything. So you might have a way that you prefer, or you might have a way that you've been advised to do things to accomplish X. But just go forward understanding that to accomplish X, you could do it in any number of ways. You have decided on a way, but if this way is not going the way that you think it should, there is no need to try to push that way. You set an intention, you look at what the types of things you need to do to move forward. You take a step forward, you see what happens. Is it okay? Okay, let's take another step. Is that okay? Okay, we'll take another step. Not so okay. Something's not gelling, something's not, I'm blocked. There's an obstacle. So when you're at the obstacle stage, do you push? Do you push on the obstacle? Do you try to go around the obstacle? Do you blow up the obstacle? What do you do? For me, when you're at the obstacle stage, this is the ultimate time when we need to sit still, be quiet, and say, all right, how am I feeling right now? Is what I want to do worth me beating my head against this obstacle? Or is there some other way that I can deal with it? So let's explore some other ways to get to X. This big boulder that's in the road right now may not be the only way. Maybe it's not the only way. Maybe I need to turn left and go 90 degrees, or maybe I need to take an angle, or maybe I just need to sit here for a while. An obstacle will go away by itself. We don't know, but the idea that I got to do something, I have to do it now, I've got to conquer this thing. For the most part, I find that that's not productive. And that's what I talk about. That's what I refer to when I say push energy. We set an intention, we step forward, we take action, but we also take action in a spirit of allowing. The obstacle could be there for a very good reason. And if we allow the obstacle to do what it's doing, we may find out something that's much, much better for us. Whether that something be, maybe we don't really need to be on this road. Maybe we need to go to Y instead of X. Or maybe this obstacle is here to help us get to X, but in a different way. And maybe the obstacle is there to just tell us we need to stop right now. Maybe X can still be our destination, but maybe not now, maybe next year. But we need to just be mindful every time we're taking a step forward and every time we encounter an obstacle. What is that obstacle telling us? What is this? What does this mean in the greater scheme of things? Knowing that my plan to get to X may not be the best plan.
It speaks very much to entrepreneurship in general, all of that, doesn't it? I mean,
Yes.
It's put in a very different way in terms of energy, and I love that. I mean, we talk about entrepreneurial skills, entrepreneurial resilience, entrepreneurial commitment and drive, but coming at it from a position of energy and intuition almost as well, isn't it? And I think it's, for me, it's when I work with entrepreneurs who have come out of the corporate world, particularly, or high achievers. I know you use that word a lot as well. That it's kind of, it feels like it ought to be in the job. You push, get to the top. And I think when you have got your own business, you kind of take on that same mantle, and it doesn't actually serve you in the entrepreneurial space when you have to be kind of open to ideas. And I love that sense of like, the obstacle might just go away on its own. I mean, come on. And it's very true. I mean, I always use like the 4 Ds when I'm talking to people: do, delay, delegate, and delete.
Yes.
So sometimes delaying acting on something can just be the right solution. But you have to kind of give it time. I think the other thing that struck me about, deciding that you want to do X, a lot of people sometimes struggle to find out, well, what is X for me? Whether it's a midlife crisis kind of question or just generally trying to find the niche for your business. Everyone's like wandering around saying, I don't know what my niche is. It's the same kind of thing. It's like, first decide what you want to do, or else we can't help you,
Right.
So I love that. So tell me a little bit about the book, because I know there's 5 stages for high achieving women. I think is that the title of the chapter?
It's the 5-step strategy that high achieving women leaders use to negotiate life success on their own terms.
Yeah. You've got a webinar on that as well, and I'll put the link to that in the show notes too, because that's what really struck me from the webinar, just how much enlightenment that you're giving to people through that. So talk me through a little bit about the 5 stages.
So stage 1 is be lazy. And that always, like, people just, their jaws drop, especially if you're an entrepreneur. It's like, you can't be lazy and be an entrepreneur. You just can't. You just can't.
Back to push energy or avoiding it.
Right, right. But really, what I mean by that is just give yourself time. Again, you don't have to push every day. There is no, particularly when you're an entrepreneur, there's nobody standing there at the end of the day saying, you're going to be docked in pay because you didn't get this done today. You may be saying that in your own mind, or, can talk about inner voices and things a little bit, but you are the only person that you have to answer to, particularly if you're a startup. And so just allow yourself the time and the space to just step back. You don't need to be doing things all day, every day. That is actually counterproductive. You need time to be able to think and not do. And so being lazy is just a way to catch people's attention, to say, yeah, you don't have to be on all the time. You don't have to be doing things all the time. You are the CEO of your own business when you are an entrepreneur, and no CEO worth her salt is doing things all the time. There has to be time to think. There has to be time to look at what you've done, evaluate it. There has to be time to just sit. Otherwise, you're always on the runway. You never get the 30,000-foot view.
So also along the lines of what other people write around the difference between doing and being, having and feeling, and those kind of things, is just getting that in balance as well, giving yourself the space to be creative and strategic as well as productive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
Not in this context, anyway.
So I've got on my list, be lazy, be utterly selfish. So I think that ties in with that. Q time, quiet time, that you mentioned. Intuition, you've touched on as well. And invest in yourself. Tell me a little bit about how you bring this whole message to new audiences, to your audiences, but also to new audiences, apart from being on a podcast like you are today.
Yes.
Because the book Success, I mean, it is a tremendous success. It's with Jack Canfield, so he's got that audience. But what are you doing yourself? I mean, I know that you run particular programs and a number of different initiatives around this area. Tell me a little bit about what you do to bring your message out.
Well, currently, what I'm doing is offering a membership program to a masterminding is a real core element of this membership, but it is a relaunch, if you will, of a women's group under the umbrella of the Wells International Foundation that is called the L Cubed Alliance.
Gotcha.
And L Cubed stands for lifestyle, legacy, and leading by example. And through L Cubed, I am encouraging women leaders to really reflect on each one of these L's and how they all intertwine, and having them look at what their sort of ideal life would be and what they're actually living now. Look at the gap between the two, and then take some steps to bring those two things closer together. And I find that, particularly for the women who I focus on, who are women leaders, and they are what I like to call only women. So they are frequently the only woman in their professional environment or the only woman in their personal network who has achieved her level of success. And so they really have no one who really gets them, who really understands from a place of experience what this woman leader is wanting to accomplish, what she has accomplished, how she accomplished it, what she went through to get there, what she is going to need to go through to get to the next step. So the L Cubed Alliance is an organization for this demographic of women leaders who are largely only women and who really want to be a part of a group of women who understand what it takes to be alone and successful. And sometimes alone also comes with being lonely. It's not necessarily the same thing, but it can, being alone can come with or be accompanied by being lonely. And so this is a space for this particular demographic of women and psychographic of women to be in a space with like-minded women and commune. This is a place for support. It's a place for centering. So all of that knowing what matters is extremely important for the L Cubed Alliance. And that's why we do masterminding. And that's why there's an element called Divinely Aligned You, which helps women just to really get in touch with their values and making sure that those values are reflected in the things that they're doing every day, which goes back to knowing what matters.
Brilliant.
And
wow.
so
That's the kind of thing that really struck me when we first met, was just like, no one's doing this. I mean, there's bits of it, there's a lot of, that there are a lot of coaching and mentoring programs for women, particularly. But no one's really talked about it in this kind of way from what I know from my circles. And I'm also wondering, though, there's a lot of men that get into a lonely kind of circle. Sometimes they don't have a circle of friends who get what they're doing because they've perhaps they've grown beyond what's normal for their friend circles or family. So I imagine, although your membership and masterminds and communities for women, that a lot of what you share in the book and in the work that you do is also applicable to a lot of other people as well.
Oh, for sure. For sure. One of the charter ambassadors for the L Cubed Alliance told me just a couple of weeks ago that before she retired from a corporation, she was part of a group that was co-ed that did somewhat, not quite exactly what we're doing with the L Cubed Alliance membership program, but something similar. And she said that she was shocked that the men had exactly the same problems and exactly the same concerns as the women, but they deal with those things differently.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I'm working with a client at the moment who's actually works with men on these areas. And one of the difficulties that they find is actually recruiting to the program, because the men don't want to put their hand up in the air and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. Hey, I need to get in touch with my inner self, and I need to have, lazy time. And because I think that push energy, that productivity drive is probably more, or even more, a part of what men feel they should, back to that word, they should be doing. It's how they've been,
Exactly.
a lot of men have been brought up. And I was watching a very interesting program not so long ago about the men's rights movement, which was intriguing, because of course with loads of focus on women's empowerment and women's rights over the years, and actually some of the men are thinking, well, what about our rights? We're on the back foot here now. So it was really interesting. I was actually quite subscribed to some of those ideas when I thought, well, I hadn't really thought about it like that, but I can see it from both sides. So, I mean, let's talk about the subject of empowerment specifically, because it is a word that's used a lot nowadays, isn't it, in the personal and professional development space, whether it's around leadership development specifically or more broadly in the context of human rights, which the Black Lives Matter movement, for example, brought into very sharp focus. Unpack the empowerment agenda of the Wells International Foundation a bit for us, would you?
Yes. So I think that all individuals, who, no matter who they are, no matter, male or female, no matter what age, no matter, what you do professionally, everyone benefits from empowerment. I think that moving the world forward with regard to creating a more just and equitable society depends entirely upon everyone having the ability to speak and act and feel like they have the agency to do that, with a very, very large caveat that you do that without intent to harm. There are so many people who have so much to offer the world, but they don't try because they don't feel empowered. They don't feel that they have the right. They don't feel that they have the ability. They feel like if they step out, they're going to be swatted down. And that could be because they've been swatted down in the past, or because they've been taught that this is just something because you are who you are. You're in X demographic. This is just something you don't do. We need every single gift that every single person in this world has to offer. And for me, that's what empowerment is. And we focus on the empowerment of women and people of African descent in the Wells International Foundation because, in Marketing 101, they say you can't talk to everybody. If you talk to everybody, then you're talking to nobody. So we're just, we've just like taken a stand and said, okay, I'm a woman. I am a person of African descent. I have certain experiences because of that. And so I'm going to focus on these demographics, and I'm going to seek to empower these populations. And when I say women, I'm talking about women of all races, okay? And so the Wells International Foundation encompasses all of my personal and professional passions. So we have 6 strategic focus areas. I'll talk about 5 of them. The arts, which is, we have a huge arts project going on right now. STEAM education. And we have a STEAM initiative that has just launched on June 5th. That is really picking up steam
we
quite
call it,
rapidly.
Yeah, we call it STEM in the UK. So just for listeners who are from the UK, it's same thing.
Yes, it is STEM. It's actually STEM in the US too, except that we add the A for arts. So STEM plus the arts equals STEAM.
Yeah.
And for years there's been talk in the US of STEM to STEAM. Why do we need the A? Yeah. And so we're doing that. We do travel and study abroad. We do literacy. We do women's empowerment. So that's 5 of the 6. The 6th is a very, very specific thing that is based on my veterinary pathology and toxicology work. And that's for developing nations. And we don't have any projects going on there right now, but we're active in all those other 5 areas.
I remember the strategic foci, and then there's the women's empowerment as a strategic focus. But for me, it felt that empowerment is golden threaded through pretty much everything you do.
Everything.
Right? Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. So that seems to be the core concept of behind what you're doing, and you've just given us a lovely backdrop to all of that and why it's important. And it's funny because in coaching, with business coaching, we often and you see it in Facebook groups and all sorts of things where people said, they talk about imposter syndrome and stuff like that. But for a lot of people, it goes way deeper than just being, bullied a bit at school, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's decades and decades and decades. And I think that's the kind of entrenched work that has to be done with a lot of people is to equal the rights. I mean, that's essentially what we're doing. So and you're doing that through coaching and mentoring and masterminding, sharing and feeling that they're not alone in this, which goes back to right back to the earlier point that there are others who have similar experiences and you can see it from different perspectives. Mm-hmm. And we worked together, Monique, on your program, The Successful Woman, Leadership and Legacy. And I know you're also, as you said, creating this membership around the L-Cubed Alliance. Tell me a little bit, who's the program for? Women of African descent, you mentioned. But is there a particular type of person that would be totally right for this?
Most definitely. So we are looking for women leaders first and foremost. Leadership can be defined in a lot of ways. We're talking about high achieving women. We're talking about in the corporate sense, we're talking about women who are C-suite and aspiring to become. It doesn't preclude people who are in middle management by any stretch of the imagination, but we're talking about women who are in the best position currently because of what they do to make the biggest ripple in the world. We're talking about, so for entrepreneurs, we're talking about women who have successful entrepreneurial businesses. For women who are in public service, we're talking about women who are leaders in NGOs and who are government leaders and who are community leaders, okay? We are talking about women who are driven, so they have a burning fire. You know, they really know what they want to accomplish in life, and they're out to get there. They're out to do that. We are talking about women who are passionate and compassionate.
Love it.
Yes, we're talking about women who are not out to win at all costs. Okay, we're talking about women who believe in what I define as a feminine brand of leadership, which is leadership through cooperation and collaboration.
Awesome. So
And
if that sounds like you, lovely listener, then this is something I think that's going to appeal. I love that.
So,
it's just such an important program, and to get a group of women together to what's the outcomes that they get from what are some of the things that people have said that shifted for them by going through this program?
well, for the successful woman, what we have people do is come to the table with a personal or a professional challenge. And through the masterminding process and through masterminding with these like-minded women who have maybe not experience in the same domain, but in this same sort of realm of life, getting in touch with the inner self, what I like to call your inner wisdom, your inner genius, your inner guidance, opening up the channel between your head, your heart, and your gut. Because so many of the women who I've just described, these driven and compassionate women, are still not really in touch with the inner depth that are the true source of their strength, and who, if they really tap into that true source of strength, will just, whatever they have already accomplished, they will accomplish a zillion times more. So these women come together with this personal or professional challenge that they have personally brought to the table. Through the masterminding session, they get in touch with their inner selves, their inner wisdom, their inner genius. They make sure that whatever this challenge is something that they actually want to deal with. Because remember, we talked about earlier, knowing what matters. It may be that after this exercise, they're like, I don't care about that. I just realized I've been doing this for years. I've been pursuing this for years, and I really don't care. I don't mean to say that, they've just been like walking around as another person. But what I'm trying to say is that what really, really lights them up and the energy that they are pouring forth, they can do that, pour that same energy into something that means something more to them.
Got it.
So sometimes it's like, I am the best physician, but I really never wanted to go into medicine. I did that because my parents did and because it was expected of me. And so this is an opportunity to say, well, is there something else that I really want to do? And sometimes that's really, really scary. And this is the jumping off point to something that's like, oh my God, what have I done? But,
I've opened up Pandora's box. And
exactly.
Courage, I mean, there's a question of courage in all of that as well, isn't there? And again, doing it in a group, having those revelations in a group somehow also gives you the sense of the courage and the support to make some changes.
And that's exactly. And that is also a decision.
Exactly.
That is also a decision. And nobody's going to beat you up for it. It's just, you just need to be with you and say, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Am I happy? If I'm not happy, can I live with it? If I really just can't live with it, what am I going to do to change it? and how quickly. You don't have to throw everything out, baby out with bathwater, and just be in touch with who you are, and just take that one step. Take that one step. Stop. How does that feel? Take the next step. Stop. How does that feel? And so the beauty of the L Cubed Alliance, and what we did even with the Successful Woman, is to assign an accountability partner for this journey that you have just decided that you're going to go on. And just check in with that person, because that's the support element that so many of us also, as only women, do not have.
So I was going to ask you around the power of strategic partnerships. And in fact, what you've just said is, going on programs like this, you form some of those alliances. I guess that's, the clue's in the name. Because I know that you're very hot on strategic partnerships. And that's been I think, we realize just how important that has been to your business.
Absolutely.
And one of the things you were doing intuitively and naturally was by forming these, and through empathy and leadership and compassion and all of those things, you really walk the talk, which is what I love about you. So what would you say is like the three most important things that you've learned about developing strategic partnerships for your business?
Okay, so I think the first thing is that the partnerships need to be based on alignment, energetic alignment, and values-based alignment. There have been partnerships that I have entered into in the past because, quote unquote, you need to work with this organization just because they have the big name and they have this and they have that. But they never go well. These partnerships never go well because there's no alignment, or very little. The alignment there's not the critical mass, if you will, of alignment. All right. There might be lip service around it, but if it's not true, they don't work. The second thing is, once you have established alignment, you need to understand what each organization or group of organizations brings to the table, and how each organization can benefit from the other, and determine very clearly what the partnership is supposed to entail. Everyone needs to be aiming for the same thing. So there needs to be good communication about what each entity is bringing to the table, and what the goal is or the mission is, and how each organization is going to move that forward. And I guess the third thing would be, on the road to achieving that goal or that mission, there has to be celebration built in so that people understand and appreciate and acknowledge every achievable milestone, because that's what gives the energy to go forward to the next level. Everybody needs to be acknowledged. Even the tiniest thing, I feel, should be celebrated. How you celebrate that is, you can decide. Perhaps you're celebrating within your organization, and not with the entire partnership. But I think that the partnerships benefit from this mutual celebration. It ties you, it binds you together. It strengthens the energy that brought you together in the first place. It attracts people and other organizations to you that are going to help you along your path and grow even bigger and better. And so I think those would be the three things that I would say.
Awesome job. I mean, brilliant. I'm just going to summarize that. I mean, I've got alignment, the energetically and values, contribution and mutual benefits, and celebration and appreciation. And it's a kind of virtuous circle is what I'm hearing. Yeah, love it. Love it. So my punch question for you, Monique, I'm asking all of my guests this, and maybe it follows from what you just highlighted, but if you had a superpower that you could use to create leverage in your business, what would you choose?
Oh, God. I think the ultimate power comes from clarity. I think, because without clarity, you can't even know if you're aligned. I think that's what I would say.
So you would shoot your little clarity laser gun and then go in that direction. No, I love that one. I love that one because actually it takes people a long time, doesn't it, to get that clarity. And that's partly why, we run our coaching programs and we run our masterminds, is because people are searching for clarity so that they have the confidence to move forward, so that a number of different things that they kind of thought they could do or should do become aligned, as you say. And I really love that, that clarity comes from putting everything into perspective and coming at it from the right energy, as takes us back to, life balances. What is your X? What is it that you actually want to achieve and is going to make you fulfilled? So love that clarity. We've run out of time. I can't believe it. Half us has gone. Before we wrap up, is there any parting wisdom that you want to leave our listeners with today?
I think what I would say is just take time to focus on you. You mentioned Q time before.
Yeah.
Q time, quiet time to focus on you. Take time for that. Take time for that every day. Take time for that every week. Take time for that every month. It doesn't have to be like 5 hours, even if it's just the 2 minutes in the shower, if that's all you have. Take time to focus on you. Dive into your inner wisdom. Dive into your genius. Open that channel between your head, your heart, and your gut, and miracles will happen for you.
I love that. And that's such an important part of building a leveraged business, that we don't just do the, leaning in, the productive, push stuff, that we actually take time and it's okay, give ourselves permission to do that. And that goes back to you saying, be lazy, be selfish, because that time is really where you hear, as you say, the inner voice. And we need to quieten the noise to hear that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think in a way, women are slightly better at doing that, or believing that is valuable, should I say, than men in some ways. But either way, I think it's a really important balance of the doing and the being, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So I've got a lot of links to share, things that we've mentioned, the book, the webinar, the free webinar that you can get, which will tell you a lot more about the program that Monique runs. And if you're interested, to get in touch with her and have a one-to-one conversation. So Monique, where would be the best place that people can do that? Would it be LinkedIn? Should they just go to your website? What's the best route?
The best thing for me, honestly, is to send me an email at wells@wellsinternationalfoundation.org. That's WELLS at wellsinternationalfoundation.org. That's the best way to reach me.
Cool.
And membership for the L-Cubed Alliance is now open. We are planning to have our first event in October of this year. And I encourage you, if you are a driven, compassionate, and passionate woman leader who may be lonely, reach out to me.
Brilliant. You've just given me exactly what I wanted in terms of that whole empowerment, that life balance side of it.
Fantastic.
Thank you. I've enjoyed this so much. You've got such a wealth of ideas and insights and wisdom and to share. And so thank you for being with us today. It's just been awesome.
Thank you so much for having me, Jay. I have loved every minute of it.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Leverage Business Podcast. Want to create leverage in your business? Did this episode provide some insights and ideas to be thinking through? If so, subscribe so you get alerts when the next one's released. If you want to learn more or would like help and support with building a leveraged business that achieves true freedom for you, then head over to jallison.com/podcast to find all the resources and links that go with this show on my website and to join our iSuccess community.
And if you're enjoying our content, it would be great if you could pop into Apple Podcasts or the app you listen from and leave me a rating and review. Everyone makes a difference to improving our rankings. So thank you if you've done that already. I appreciate you. So hey, that's it. Thank you for listening. I hope you've loved this episode and have some great takeaways to be thinking through. I wish you a pleasant, productive and profitable week, and I'll see you again next time for another episode of the Leverage Business Podcast.